check it out. We got steel going up today on this 28,000 square foot addition to my home. And I want to tell you something, a 401k did not make this dream possible. In fact, the 401k is a scam. There are 6 major reasons why it's a scam, why it doesn't work. And if you want to live a better life, then you got to do something different than a 401k. If you want to know what the 6 reasons are, and if you want to know what you should be doing instead, come with me.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Did you know that 81% of people are participating in a 401k? Quite possibly the worst financial choice for your future that you'll ever make. I remember when my wife and I got married, she started a 401k and we listened to our CPA and we started putting money in an IRA. And very quickly I started to realize there's not really any leftover money. But I'm like, that's okay. We'll have money in a 401k in our future. We'll have money in our IRA in the future. And in my job, my career was on the phones, telemarketing, talking to human beings as a college kid that had been to college 30 years earlier. They had been dutiful 401kers. And now on the edge of retirement, I saw what they had. This dude had $40,000. This engineer had $160,000. This doctor had $220,000. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, some of the best earners in society that have been contributing to a 401k are so far behind on retirement. If everyone's doing that, why isn't it working? All right, so there's 6 reasons why you should never put money in a 401k. The following comes from bankonyourself.com, and it starts with number 1. The 401k is a tax deferral scam. Right? Everyone is saying, put your money into a 401k, get the company match, and then you don't have to worry about paying taxes until the end when it's time for retirement. You can start withdrawing money and you'll just pay taxes then. Well, first of all, do you understand that you're going to pay taxes now or you're going to pay taxes later? And so you have to bank on what are taxes later going to look like? Does it look like the government is getting less expensive or more expensive to run? Do you think Medicare and Social Security is going to become more expensive or less? Because I'm going to tell you right now that the experts are predicting that it's going to turn into a tax bomb. In other words, it would be better for you to actually have your money today, pay your taxes today, and be able to invest and do something with your money than just waiting for this tax shelter that will come down the road when the truth is there isn't one. Quote, it doesn't make any difference whether the taxes are taken away from you at the beginning, before you put your money in a savings vehicle, or at the end, tax deferred. It's the same fraction of your money that's going to be left to you anyway. If tax rates are lower in the future, you'll come out ahead. However, most people, including most financial experts, believe that tax rates must head higher, not lower, over the long term. In other words, if the major benefit of putting your money in a 401k is for the tax benefits, sounds like there may be none, except you're going to lose the time value of money when that money could actually be intelligently invested today. The second reason to never put money in a 401k is actually kind of scary. Let's talk about the employee match, right? We're going to talk about the free money. You think, hey, when I put money into my 401k, my company's going to match it. And that's like free money. Every dollar I put in, they put in $1 up to a certain amount. But check it out. The Center for Retirement Research, they did a study. And based on tax data, here's what they found out. Every dollar an employer contributes to your 401k match, they pay 90 cents less salary to men and 99 cents less salary to women on average. Now you're like, wait, what does that actually mean? I thought I was getting a match. I thought I was getting a perk. I thought I was getting free money. Here's what it means. It means that your employer is essentially pulling money out of your paycheck to contribute to your 401k, and you're really just netting pennies, anywhere from 10 cents for a man or a penny for a woman, not dollars. Now I gotta ask you, does that actually sound like a really good deal? Like, do you wanna put your money, phantom money, in an account that you can't access for years down the road instead of actually getting the money today? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, money in my hand is more powerful than money in jail. Guess what I can do with money in my hand? I can invest it. And you have to ask yourself, well, yeah, Kris, but if I invest it, can I beat the 401k's 30-year average of producing right around 5%? And I'm going to tell you right now at the end of this video that there are so many ways to beat that 5%. In fact, I'll just share one of them with you at the end that literally yields you 27 times more money over 20 years than this. And I believe it's a lot less risky. Let's talk about the third reason why you never put money in a 401k. This one's going to turn your stomach acid. You're not going to be happy. you understand that whoever is moderating your 401k is actually charging you fees to do it. Those fees range between 1 and 2%. According to Brightscope, they did a study and here's what they found out. If you're paying 1% on your 401k fees over 35 years, it'll actually devour up to 28% of the value of your money. But if you're paying up to 2%, it's 49.5%. You could literally lose up to half of the value of what you're setting aside in fees, which is people basically saying, you're too dumb to manage your own money. We're going to give you safety. We're going to remove the risk. We're going to give you a 30-year average of like 5%. We're going to tell you these things that should make you feel really good. But the truth is the people managing your money, they're getting rich. Because whether your account value goes up or the market drops and it goes down, they're still earning 1 to 2% no matter what. And meanwhile, you're losing somewhere between 28 and 49.5% of all of your money during your retirement saving years. All right, the fourth reason to never put money in a 401k is that once you put it in, it's trapped in prison potentially forever. Like, have you ever tried going to your HR department and saying, hey, I need to pull some money out of my 401k? Let me tell you what they usually say. No. And you're like, wait a second, I thought this was my money. Can't I access my money? And they're like, well, you can borrow up to a certain amount of it, like up to maybe $50,000, but you got to pay it back and not amortized over 30 years. You got to pay it back on a 5-year loan, which means your payments are going to be really, really high. And don't worry, we're not going to charge you interest. It's just going back into your 401k. We just want to make it really unrealistic for you to access money out of this thing. If you've been saving for a decade or two and you decide to pull out a large chunk of money, like $100,000, well, first of all, they're going to take 10% penalty right off the top. That's 10 grand. And then of the remaining $90,000, they're going to say, oh, let's just add that to your income this year. That's going to bump you into a higher tax bracket. You could be paying another $15,000, $20,000, $35,000 on whatever you're pulling out. And all of a sudden it's like, now I feel like I'm being punished for putting my money in this vehicle in the first place. Have you heard that 92% of mutual funds actually lose money, especially then when you take inflation into account? Well, the fifth reason why you should never put money in a 401k is the myth of market returns. Most 401ks are invested in mutual funds, and on average, they're earning 4.25% per year, which means they're barely beating inflation, which means that they're basically at a standstill, which means that you're not getting the benefit of compound interest. So here you are thinking, yeah, but Kris, I'm being safe. I'm not risking my money. I got news for you. If you don't get enough performance and growth on your money and up to half of it's eaten away in fees and you can't really touch the money in the meantime, then guess what happens when you earn such a low rate of return, a low single-digit return over 30 years? Well, you average 4.25%. Right now, inflation is killing that number altogether, which really means you're earning nothing. So you're putting your money in prison, you can't touch it, and it's doing nothing, but your employer is pulling money out of your salary so they can pay your 401k when you could actually just have the money yourself. Tell me that you're starting to figure out that this is a real bad idea, and if this hasn't got you yet, the sixth and final reason will. The sixth and final reason to never put money in a 401k is that if that is your retirement plan, have you done the math and figured out that you're only going to have a fraction of the money that you need for retirement? In other words, your retirement plan is broken. It's guaranteed to not be enough money, and yet it's the one thing that we do hoping that it will. Now, in the 70s, the creator of the 401k, his name was Ted Banna. And what Ted did is he worked with the government because the government said, we have a problem. Companies are doing away with pensions, but we feel like people should have a retirement plan. So Ted came up with this model called the 401k and gave tax benefits to companies for doing company matches. Did you know that the average person at retirement, age 65, only has $256,000? And you might be thinking, Kris, isn't that a lot? Well, when you go to retire, and on average, you hit your peak of earnings of around $90,000 a year at 55 years old. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, which means you're probably living off of around $80,000+ a year. If you save $256,000, then at retirement, you could only maintain that standard of living for 3 years. So instead, you cut it in half, and all of a sudden you have to maybe sell your house or vehicles, change everything up, and now you've got money for 6 years? Meanwhile, modern medicine has caught up, and right now you think people are dying in their 70s or 80s, but if you're my age, wait for 20 or 30 years and people will be living over 100 years, which means you need money for decades, not 3 years. Well, Ted Banna, when he put this together, he now refers to it, he says the experiment is over. He calls it an out-of-control monster that should be blown up. In other words, it never worked, it failed, and you need an alternative. And if you want to know what that is, check this out. But Kris, didn't you know next year? Great news. They're actually increasing the amount of money that you can put in your 401k by up to $500 a year. Surely that's got to make a difference of dollars and pennies when retirement comes. Yes, it's not going to work. In my early 20s, I set out to solve the 401k dilemma. The best passive alternative that I could find was investing in buy and hold rentals. And I developed a model, and I've learned over the last $2 billion of real estate acquisitions, the last 6,500 projects, I've learned how to average a minimum of 25% a year on my money. Now, let me tell you why 90% of millionaires do so in real estate. It's that if you buy and hold real estate and you earn 25% over 20 years, as opposed to a 401k, you'll make 27 times more money. That means that $50,000 put in a 401k over 20 years triples. It goes to 160 grand. But the same $50,000 put into real estate over 20 years, earning 25%, produces $4.3 million. What would you rather retire with? A couple hundred grand or several million dollars? If you want to know how to buy real estate, the best real estate out there, but totally passive, where it doesn't take your time, effort, and energy, then click the link below. Let me teach you about partnering with me. Let me show you what I've done with over 1,000 people in building real estate portfolios that have changed their retirement forever. But you might be thinking, Kris, if I put money in my 401k, it's available, it's easy, it's right there. Like, it's just so easy not to do. If I could show you how to invest in real estate the exact same way, where you push a couple of buttons and then it fully automatically works for you, but instead has the potential to make you millions of dollars for retirement, if you want to learn about that, click the link below. Let me share with you an alternative that's going to change everything for you. When I say invest in real estate, you might not know what I'm talking about, because you might be thinking swinging hammers, fixing up houses, and playing landlord. I actually don't mean that at all. If you want to know how I bought my first 25 homes as a college kid that retired me right out of college, I recently took my CEO, picked him up in the limo, took him around to a bunch of my first houses, and showed him my journey. If you want to know what I really mean by investing passively in real estate, click this link. Let me show you how it all started.